All right, come on in. Freedom now, everyone. Hello, hello. I'm Latoya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer in New York. Come on in and say hello and type in freedom now. Let's see if I could get myself here in the center. Um, all right, I am joined today by a couple of my colleagues who are also going to be sharing some very important updates with you, and we're going to handle your immigration questions together today as a team. I'm joined by one of our supervising attorneys, Kimberly Anderson, and one of our associates, Farah Spencer. Come on in, type in freedom now if you're joining on Instagram and TikTok. Certainly, you can go over to McBean Immigration TV so that you could interact with my colleagues as well. Friends, we're here for you at McBean Law. We're here for you. I know that things are very challenging right now with immigration. Immigration attorneys are feeling the same way, but just know that you don't have to do this alone. We're here for you. You could reach out to us at 914-898-9488, or you could email us at info@mcbeanlaw.com, where we could schedule a consultation on your behalf. Just make it happen, friends, because now is the time for immigration. Today is better for immigration than tomorrow will be, right? And I'm sure my colleagues can attest to this. So come on in and say freedom now. Also, friends, if you have not yet started following our show, hit that subscribe button wherever you're joining from. If you're joining from Instagram, TikTok, or McBean Immigration TV, certainly subscribe so that you'll be in the loop. Now, I'm going to go through a few things, friends, that are in the news, one of which is denaturalization. As you know, the Trump administration is attempting to really ramp up denaturalization, which is a process of stripping citizenship away from individuals, naturalized citizens. And we have some data now to share about what they're doing. Most of the cases that they've been put in before the various U.S. district courts around the country are based on the fact that these individuals committed fraud or willful misrepresentation. Some I also are based on criminal reasons, but as of July 22nd, the Justice Department had filed at least 89 denaturalization cases in federal court. Of those cases, the DOJ, or the Department of Justice, has indicated that they've won at least 19. 19 of those cases have been successful for the government at this point. And the goal that we understand through the media, the administration aims to file at least 250 denaturalization cases um, uh, by October. Okay, by October, they want to file 250 cases, and so this is, they're getting to the point of ramping this up because, as compared with the Biden administration, the Department of Justice had only filed 24 denaturalization cases over the 4 years that Biden was in office. So this is a much more aggressive standpoint that the government, viewpoint, I should say, that the government has about denaturalization, but only 19 of those cases have been successful so far. Also, friends, we have been seeing as of late that traveling around the United States as an undocumented individual, and we're going to get into what documented is versus undocumented maybe a little bit later, but traveling around the United States without a green card, okay, is risky now. Risky. I'm sure you've seen the videos and read in the news about the fact that ICE has ramped up more arrests at U.S. airports around the country. In San Francisco, at the San Francisco International Airport, ICE detained a woman from Ukraine. And this person, she's still in custody today, to my knowledge, as reported. She entered the United States in 2010, and DHS is alleging that she just overstayed her visa. They said that her visa expired in 2011, and she's been in the United States unlawfully for the past 15 years. There's that arrest. Then there was also an arrest at the Denver airport of a woman who's from Ecuador, and she was arrested, detained on July 20th while she was preparing to board the plane. And again, these are just domestic travels around the United States. She wasn't going internationally. She wasn't leaving. She was only flying to Oakland, and Oakland, California, and she was detained. Apparently, according to her attorney, who is disputing this, her attorney said that she entered the United States lawfully in 2023 on a J-1 exchange visitor visa, and they're seeking a habeas to get her out from detention. And then, thirdly, you might have heard about the Jamaican man who was a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines, and he was also detained at the Nashville International Airport. And he entered the United States in 2021, and DHS, of course, again alleges that his visa expired, and he shouldn't be here. So he's in detention. According to what's being reported, he entered the U.S. again lawfully with his visa, and he it, apparently has a work permit, okay, a valid work permit based on a pending asylum application. And you probably heard me say time and time again that just by having a pending application, like asylum application, doesn't give you or put you in lawful status, so to speak. And so now he's in removal fighting the detention. And so at this point, friends, if you do not have a green card, it's not a good idea to get on an airplane and fly around the United States. Something very important is going on with Haitian TPS, and my colleague Farah is going to just brief us on what's going on with TPS.
Hi, everybody. My name is Farrah Spencer. I'm an attorney here at McBean Law. As most of you have heard, the Supreme Court last month made a decision and siding with the Trump administration, allowing the Trump administration to end TPS for Haiti, as well as Syria, as well. And some other countries are also facing the end of TPS of throughout the end of 2026. Today is the expected end of TPS for Haitians, barring a decision, an act of Congress, or a decision by a court. And it is expected to end today. There's no further update as of now. I just checked before I joined in on this call, but as of today, it's expected to end for Haitians July 27th. So, what does that mean for Haitians in the United States right now who are on TPS? It means that as of tomorrow, you are no longer have work authorization. You will no longer be allowed to work in the United States. Uh, Secondly, it means now that you are subjected to being placed in removal proceedings. That usually starts with the issuance of a notice to appear. So the best thing to do right now is find some other form of relief from removal in the United States. If you have family members here who can petition you, or depending on your status, if you have an employer who could petition you, you should try to look to see what those options are, and speak to an immigration attorney to see if any of those options are viable to you. Um, Other option is if you have a well-founded fear of returning to Haiti. Again, there's the option of filing for political asylum here in the United States, but there are strict deadlines, and you also have to meet certain standards. You cannot file a frivolous asylum application, which basically means you cannot file an application that is not rooted in a valid fear. So again, we we recommend that you speak to an immigration attorney before you pursue any of these options right now.
Awesome. And also, thank you, Farah. We're trying to stay on top of this as well. So follow us on social media, of course, for any updates related to things like TPS ending for Haitians or this decision that we're waiting on from the court. Now, other big things have happened, particularly on the employment-based side with students and Kimberly, tell us a little bit about the big change that happened with the F1 student visa process.
So, starting September 15th, 2026, there's no longer going to be what's called duration of status. So, typically, when you came in on an F1, J1, or a journalist visa, you were granted duration of status, which meant that you had an expiration date that aligned with, with when your school ended or when you stopped having work authorization through either OPT or CPT. Um, they have now decided that they're going to do expiration dates, which means you're going to have a set expiration date. And this is going to affect things like cap gap when you go from an H-1B, changing schools, or ending a degree program and going into another degree program. You're now going to have to be very aware of your I-20 and your expiration date on your I-94 to make sure that you do the proper things and remain in status. As it's also going to affect travel. Most of the schools are now advising that if you're going to travel, you return to the United States before September 15th so that you maintain that duration of status option up until September 15th of 2026.
Okay, and then also we're working on behind the scenes for you as well, a webinar that will touch on this F1 student visa, the changes, as well as how students can really get ahead of what's happening here in the US. So I don't think we have landed on the date for the webinar. It might be next week, Friday, if I'm not mistaken, but stay tuned. We will send out our registration link for this webinar, and my colleagues who are here with us today will lead that discussion. So plan to join our webinar. Okay, so let's go into some questions. We have quite a bit of people joining today from TikTok and some from Instagram, and I'm going to just take it one by one, and then I'll read their questions for you as well. Thank you. Okay, so the first question, hold on a second, friends. Let me shift this over, get this off our screen here. And if you're now joining, you're blessed today to be joined by two of my colleagues, immigration attorneys, very experienced immigration attorneys on our show today who will be answering some of the questions. The first question is from Jason, says that my stepdaughter just got approved with the USCIS. It's now with the NVC. You think my wife is going to get approved next? And how long do you think it will take? So from my experience, I do see children's cases or the stepchild's case typically moves a little faster than the spousal process because the spousal process is a lot more complex. It's you would have to prove a bona fide marriage. It's but so your wife's case will be determined on the merit of that case that you've put in front of USCIS. But it's good that your daughter's case is moving forward. And sometimes it's even possible for the child to be approved and the spouse is still waiting. So don't be alarmed if that happens, okay? Let's see, Farah, you want to take the next one? Um, let's
Sure.
see, let's go down. Freedom Now. Um, let's see. Or maybe, I don't know, Kimberly, you want to take this one? What about the DV pause? Is there any reason to be hopeful for non-plaintiffs of the DV lottery? I know we don't have any DV cases here at McBean Law
Mhm.
lawsuits, but I do know that other impact litigation has their DV lawsuit going. I don't know if there's anything to be said here, Kimberly, about the DV pause.
No, I mean, I do know there's a significant time period that you're allowed to obtain that DV visa once it's granted. So hopefully that whatever lawsuits are going on or will affect it in a total, and maybe there will be a similar case like Dorcas, it will lift it, but they do have some time. So there's still, I think, some hope.
Okay, when will the Somali ban be lifted? The Somali ban. I think this individual is referring to the 75, or is it the travel ban? Is Somalia, I think Somalia is one of the 39, correct?
Yes, it
It's
is fully
so
restricted.
yeah, it's fully restricted. So that's the fully restricted, the 212, it's a 212F travel ban problem right now that Somalis outside of the United States are facing. But here in the United States, if your case is at the USCIS, that's a different story because through the Dorcas lawsuit, the judge vacated the 39 country pause, although USCIS is moving at an extremely slow pace with respect to adjudicating these cases, which is why we're pushing. Freedom now, guys. Let's see. And I'm going to read a question here from Instagram. If I travel to Belize and decide to stay there, can I be extradited back? Can I be extradited back if I moved to Belize and I decided to stay there? Who's gonna take the question?
I guess it depends.
It depends
It
on
depends.
why you're
Yeah,
leaving. A
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
factors
yeah,
it depends on.
yeah.
Yeah, is
I
there
mean,
a criminal
just
matter that
yeah, right.
that would
Just simply
warrant
based on immigration, no. But if there's other extenuating circumstances,
Mhm.
yeah, moving to Belize isn't going to protect you.
Right, and there's the story of that one woman that's also in the news who she left the US after stealing, committing fraud, PPP fraud,
Mhm.
$32 million. And so her co-conspirators, they were all arrested, and she left and went to Jamaica, and then, the FBI had her on their most wanted list, and they were able to get her back to the US last week. So I don't know if maybe this question is prompted from that event. I don't know. Okay, let's see. If I have an approved visa before the pause, but name correction on visa, single word passport is in embassy for name correction. Does my approved case affect the 75 country pause? The way I'm reading this question is that
Mhm.
before the Rubio's cable in January pause in the immigrant visa process, this person had a 221G issue related to
Mhm.
maybe a name correction. And so now in comes this pause in January. And so now he's wondering, well, this issue has been resolved already. Am I still subject to the pause? And the answer is yes. The
Mhm.
answer is yes, unfortunately, until this pause is vacated or the Rubio lifts the pause. Freedom now from Cameroon. Um, let's see. Let's keep going. Um, Kimberly, this one looks like it could be for you. Do you want to read it?
Let's see. We filed our Form I-29F 9 months ago, but my fiance is from one of the 39 banned countries and still no update. Oh, we filed. Okay. Still no update
Mhm.
on our case. Can USCIS process our case? So technically speaking, the I-29F is a non-immigrant visa, so it's supposed to be processing, um, even even if you are. Oh, so you're in the 39 countries, so it should process at the embassy. As far as the 39 country ban, it should also, right. It's non-immigrant, so it should be also processing here in the United States as well, because it should not be affecting non-immigrant. It's only immigrant visas.
I have been waiting for them to get back to me for my son. He is grown now in Jamaica. The I-130 has been approved. So this person, Jamaica is or it's your case, once the I-130 has been approved, of course, it goes over to the National Visa Center. So the question really is, have you taken all of the steps at the National Visa Center to get to the point of a decision of being documentarily qualified, and then ultimately the interview? At the interview stage, if the 75 country pause is still in effect, then they will not issue the visa to your son until that pause has been lifted. But this is an adult son you mentioned here. Is the priority date even current, right? Because that's usually the issue that we see, is this lengthy wait for a visa to become available for the individual. Okay, thank you. Let's see. Is it normal to get an I-485 update fingerprint applied to your case for the second time? So this is a pending. uh,
S- So, so I've seen this a couple of times here lately, that we've seen people be getting biometrics appointment, either when they said in the case earlier that they were going to use biometrics from a previous case, or they've done biometrics previously. I don't know really why they're doing this. You need to go to the biometrics appointment because you could fail, you could lose your application, you could be denied for not attending the biometrics. At this point, we haven't heard of anybody being detained at biometrics as far as this goes, but I have been seeing this more often.
Yeah, and USCIS has this new policy of recheck-in, re-vet-in. They did put something out about more fingerprint procedures, but don't be alarmed by it. As my colleague said, just go ahead and follow that procedure so that you can move the needle, so that you could get closer to hopefully an approval of your case. Thank you for being here today. I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues who I have the privilege of working with. I see someone is here from Minnesota. We're answering your questions. Okay, let's see. The next question is the new rule that will be implemented on September 18th for the USCIS a good sign for lifting the pause from the 75 countries after the implementation? Who wants to take that? I know I could take it, but just they look so eager to jump on. So the September 18th public charge, that's the date when the new public charge rules are going to go into effect. And so this person wants to know, okay, does this mean now that the State Department is going to act and lift this pause? I'm not sure. I don't think I know that for certain, we're waiting on the State Department to come out with their new screen and tools around public charge. The DHS rules that the final rules around public charge will most likely obviously be the same rules that the State Department is going to apply. It's just that the State Department needs to put out their guidance to their people about how to apply that rule. So yes, we're moving closer. We're moving closer, hopefully, to the pause being lifted. That's what we're trying to achieve through our lawsuit and the other lawsuits that are out there on this country, that are out there around the country. Freedom now, freedom now, freedom now. Thank you, Freddie. Freddie says, great team. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is pause over? Is pause over, Farah?
Um, Technically, the 39 country pause is over based on the Dorcas
Oh.
decision from last month.
I,
The issue is if USCIS actually is going to comply with the court order and how quickly they will comply. And so far, we have not seen any compliance on the end from USCIS.
okay, next question. If NVC flags the documentarily qualified, does the date of the I-130 get extended? If NVC flags the DQ, does the date of the I-130 get extended?
Well, I don't know if they're asking. I would. There's no expiration on an I-130. It stays as long as it's approved, and USCIS doesn't pull it, or the petitioner doesn't pull it. But I don't know if you're asking in sense of the Child Status Protection Act or something along those lines. And there's
Mm,
with CSPA, for instance, you have very strong deadlines, and it wouldn't change that.
Yeah, so Brownie, I think the part that's tripping us up just a little bit is the phrase flags the documentarily qualified. I'm not sure how the Visa Center would flag it. Um, but so you could feel free to maybe reframe your question or ask, so that we could answer that for you. Any news about TPS? Yes, my colleague did cover earlier news related to Haitian TPS. There's going to be a very important decision that's going to come out today by a court. Let's see. Let's go down. I'm from Pakistan and I'm waiting for the interview letter and an NVC has already approved everything, but don't know how much is the wait usually for the interview letter. So this person sounds to be documentarily
very
qualified,
qualified.
right?
Hmm.
And he's waiting for an interview date. I don't know if anyone can pull up the IV um, scheduling tool on the State Department's website to tell us what documentarily qualified date they're up to for, I'm assuming Islamabad. Um, Hello, how about the 75 countries pause? Can we have updates in a few days? Can we have updates in a few days? So for us, we met with our plaintiffs on Friday, all plaintiffs, and then tomorrow we're going to have another plaintiff meeting with only our 52 I'm sorry, not 52. We have 82 plaintiffs in that case, but only with the plaintiffs in that case to go over some additional information and things that we're going to need from them and to chart out for them what's next. But, we will update you when we have more significant news to really share from the court. We were very disappointed last week. It hurt like nothing
Hmm.
else, right? Like it really, 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 really hurt us. And we know that it hurt you too. And so on Thursday, when we got that decision from the court, I did a video for you on that Thursday night before leaving, and it was sent out on Friday actually. So watch that video where I shared that update, and just stay tuned. We're still hopeful. I still feel pretty good about the law and about what the judge said at our hearing, and his words are still very powerful. And he did, instruct the government's attorney to go back and tell Rubio, right? So these things have an effect, despite the fact that we didn't get the preliminary injunction grant. It was still the statements that were made at that hearing were still pretty strong. And it was clear that the judge doesn't think that Rubio has the legal authority to get involved with consular decisions, to tell them to stop issuing these visas or refuse these visas. So that was actually a very important development.
Just to interrupt, they're
Oh yeah,
they're
go ahead.
currently working on October 2025 priority dates.
Ooh,
So
October
I mean, which would have
2020.
you filed? Yeah, filed
This is
cases.
Islamabad.
This is Islamabad for immediate relative.
Mm. So they're behind a little bit
Mm.
there, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
see.
Let's go down here. Maybe here's one. This is so long. We'll try our best here. This is a domicile question. I'm a U.S. citizen living with my spouse in Pakistan while we wait for the immediate relative Sierra 1 visa, documentarily qualified since November 2025. I still file U.S. taxes on property, have a car, and may have a U.S. job offer. With the current visa pause, do I really need to move back to the U.S. before or during this interview to provide domicile? Or can I stay with him in Pakistan and return to the U.S. once his visa is returned? I'm sorry, approved.
It's a caveat to this is the Trump administration has changed things greatly. So this is based on a case that I had previous to the Trump administration with somebody that was living abroad doing the same thing, and you just need to show strong ties to the U.S. Show that you proof that you own property, proof that you have the U.S. job offer, and as long as you can show that you have strong ties and you eventually plan on returning to the U.S. with that spouse, then typically they will grant those, even if you stay out.
Yeah, and I would add to that, at that interview, absolutely you need to prove domicile at the interview, okay? That's there's no getting around that. And you've listed some steps here or some, your connection still to the US. Yes, you own your property. Yes, you have a car. Yes, you might even have a job offer coming down the pike here for you. But I would say, take some very strong affirmative steps closer to the interview in the event that more proof is asked of you. But yeah, you really will need to show that in domicile. Kimberly, actually, I remember too, years ago under the first Trump term, we had a couple, this was Ghana, actually, Accra, Ghana, and the US citizen spouse left her husband and returned to the United States, left with all the children. They had several children and came back here to set up domicile and everything. And then lo and behold, next thing you know, there was significant I forget which policy. There was a ban that went into effect that separated them for like almost 2 years. It was terrible. So I understand this time and issue. You kind of want to gauge things, watch things before you're separated for an extended period of time. You really don't want it to happen that way. So I would say certainly when is the interview, and also what else is going on. Has the pause lifted, or maybe you could even try to reschedule his interview. It doesn't necessarily have to happen yet, right? So there are things that can happen. You could take steps you could take to slow it down a little bit so that your family isn't separated for a long time. Thank you so much for joining from Kenya. Paul says, I'm watching from Kenya. Thank you so much. Let's go down to a biometrics question. Why my citizenship process takes so long? I did biometrics in February. Any update on that?
It depends on what state you're in. I know in New York, the field office, it takes about 8 months for to be scheduled for a naturalization interview, but it really depends on what field office you reside in. But but February is still maybe likely still within processing times, depending on where you live in the United States.
And I will say, I will make one comment I've seen a lot lately in consults is that there's tools available still with USCIS. You can
Mhm.
go in and do case status inquiry. It will let you do that if it's outside of processing time. You can always reach out to your local congressperson. There's things that you should be doing and can be doing. One, because if it does keep being prolonged and you want to move to a mandamus, that's one of the steps that we want to show is that you've been, actively trying to get your case decided.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can S/O, who has been asked to self-deport after the green card was denied as a minor, can I still file a marriage green card case? And
Significant other,
thank
SO.
God
I think that's
someone showed up to work
yes.
today. Oh, Paris showed up to work today. Okay.
So
Um,
it's yeah. It
yes.
sounds like his or her significant other filed a green card case as a minor. Now it's been denied. Um, if if there's a valid entry in the United States for this applicant, and there's a valid marriage, she can go ahead and file a spousal adjustment of status for for this person. They have to show that it's a marriage for love, obviously. There's ways that USCIS could determine if this is a marriage simply for immigration benefits or a marriage based on the intent to live a long time together as a married couple. But based on what she's saying, yes, they could move forward with a marriage case. Something they should keep in mind is that once the I-45 is denied, they are quickly turning around and referring those cases to ICE to institute removal proceedings. So there is a very small window before you could go ahead and move forward and file a spousal adjustment of status case. But yes, depending on the scenario, if the person had a valid entry, she can go ahead and file a adjustment of status and family petition for him.
Great. If I-130 was filed by green card parent, and it was approved, now says the case is closed. Parent will be a citizen early next year should they go ahead and file I-45 for the child before the parent becomes a U.S. citizen. So the green card holder parent filed an I-130 for the child, and that case was approved. I'm not sure about the case being closed part, but the parent is still a green card holder, is applying for citizenship, and so this person is asking whether they should go ahead and file the 485 for the child before the parent becomes a U.S. citizen. I think from
Is
my standpoint, Kimberly, you're going to jump in, but from my
Mhm.
standpoint, I would be very careful to ensure that the child had continuously maintained a lawful status before applying for the adjustment of status with a green card, only with a green card. That's going to be the issue right there. But Kimberly, you wanted to
Yeah, I
jump
know.
in?
Does it mention age?
That's
No,
what
I
I was
did
thinking
not see it.
also.
I did not
Yeah.
see an age.
So that's going to be a factor too, because if if the child is over the age of 21, if they happen to be over 21, then F2A category, which is LPR, is only backlogged to 2026, whereas the F2B, the whatever the where is it, U.S. citizen, is backlogged 2018. So it matters as far as that is concerned.
Right. Age matters as well as continuously keeping a lawful status in the
Correct.
US since you're talking about adjusting status. So even minors, children can be placed in removal. And we've had some of those heartbreaking cases over this past year of USCIS in a very cruel way placing 9-year-olds, children in removal. Why? Because they had a case that was denied. The parent prematurely filed adjustment of status when the child wasn't eligible for it. And so USCIS placed that child in deportation proceedings. So speak with an immigration attorney before you apply for adjustment of status, whoever you are, whoever. Now it's like everybody, right? You want to make
Mhm.
sure you get adjustment of status right. Okay. Next question says, I went to my interview on May 14th. I received a 221G due to the pause. Is it normal for a case status to remain ready until today? Is it normal for a case? So this is someone at the embassy level interviewed, got 221G. They want to know um, whether it's normal, I'll read that part. Is it normal for a case status to remain ready until today? The way I understand
Mhm.
it, what they're trying to say here is I've already gone all the way until the end, right? What's next, right? Are they going to hold on? Is everything going to still remain fresh and current, or what's going to happen? Will I have to start all over again? And so typically after 221G has been lifted, so to speak, from your record, you wouldn't have to start all over. You just have to satisfy whatever is left in 221G, like maybe doing a fresh medical and police clearance. It just depends on how long you've been in that 221G process. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to, any other light to shed there.
No,
Um, let's go down a little bit. We've already answered that one about Pakistan and domicile. Um, um, Please say that again, Miss McBean. If you are out of status, stay out of the
Mhm.
airport because it appears they are not understanding. Yeah, so the big shift that you really have to get into your mind now, you have to really shift away from thinking that, oh, I filed my case is pending, therefore I'm safe when I'm traveling around the United States. I have a pending asylum application, therefore I'm safe. I have a pending maybe green card application, therefore I'm safe when I travel. I think the examples that we talked about earlier of ICE arresting these various people at the airport is showing us that when there's you're not safe anymore because TSA is sharing data with ICE on travelers. And so be very careful with your travel. Just because you have a pending application doesn't mean you're in lawful status. Yes, you might be in a period of authorized stay. You're authorized to stay in the United States pending a decision on this
Mhm.
application that you have with immigration, but it doesn't mean that you're in lawful status like if you're a student, right? Like a F student or TPS, that's a lawful status, right? So there's a big difference there. And now people are waking up to this reality. And ICE, through their plainclothes officers, are at these airports now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, who wants to take this one from Shidina? Chidina.
Either one. I'm a lawful permanent resident holder, was married but divorced. I've been a permanent resident for 5 years. Now I'm due for citizen, but based on the news and what is playing out in the immigration, I don't feel safe to file. I intend to travel back to my home country in December. I don't have any criminal records or no arrest. Is it advisable to travel out? I mean, without seeing your record, it's hard to advise, but travel's risky right now. So if there's anything in your record, it can be problematic. You need to make sure that your record is very, very strong. In addition, as well as filing for naturalization, one of the things that we're seeing is that the naturalization phase,
Mhm.
they are going through cases with a very fine tooth comb. Me and Farah have both seen a number of cases where they
Mhm.
have put people into proceedings based on things that happened in their record 20 or 30 years ago after having multiple renewals of their green card. So you just want to make sure you have an immigration attorney look at your record, thoroughly review it before you do anything as far as naturalization. And then the same if you make sure you don't have any issues that could cause an admissibility when you're traveling that could make CBP stop you when you're trying to come in
Are
or
there
issue
any
you an NTA.
are there any
Mhm.
updates about DACA?
I haven't seen any. No.
Okay. Um, my case got closed after a year, but I got an approved I-130. What can I do, please? Thank you. I'm not sure why was your case closed? You have an approved I-130, so I'm not really sure what you're asking there. My court is in October. My hearing is in October, but I got a letter to come on July 27th. Am I in trouble?
So it depends. I mean, I don't know if you're in trouble, but it will depend on the letter. So what we are seeing is court dates are being moved and they're being fast tracked. Often, even at the last minute.
Mhm.
Some we had a counsel here that had a hearing updated on a Saturday. So you do need to keep track of that. If you mean by a letter a check-in, it's really hard to say. You just have if you attend the check-in, there's always a risk that you could be detained. You need to take an attorney with you. Again, have somebody review your record to look at the particular circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds to me like this person just got a hearing notice potentially of a earlier scheduled hearing, which you should absolutely stay on top of and attend
Mhm.
every hearing. But Kimberly had an interesting occurrence last week, actually, that this triggered me mentioning this with checking in with a client. Checking in these days, of course, with ICE is risky. You have to certainly appear at your check-ins. We're not telling you not to do that, but you've got got to prepare yourself for it. So Kimberly, I don't know if you want to just maybe briefly share with us that, we thought that this particular person was going to be detained, but we were ready with some work that we had done for him. And while Kimberly was there and she saw other attorneys there with their clients, and those people were being detained, she walked out with ours, incidentally, on the same day as the fire
As it
or
is,
the
yeah,
as
I
that
walked away
event.
minutes after that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
and
tell the story.
yeah. And also I spoke to another attorney there, one of the attorneys that was there, and her client was from the same country, exact same circumstances, and her client was in fact detained. So I went in immediately, pulled out the documents that we had filed, and showed that I had an updated status report on both of them of where they were at in the system, and they rescheduled him a new check-in date 7 or 8 months from now. So
What was it that we had prepared for him?
we had a 212 waiver and then a motion to terminate as well as an emergency stay.
So we had something ready, what we had filed these, but she was there and she made a case for him, and he's home right now, or at
Yeah.
work, right?
Awaiting a baby, actually. He's got a baby due
Oh, he
in a
has a
couple
baby
of
on the
weeks. Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's so wonderful. Thank you for so much for explaining everything to us. May God bless your efforts. Thank you, Ketley. Um, we provided updates already on the 75 country. There's can a student with a valid work permit work two jobs, Kimberly, or Farah actually, because Farah is also an employment-based attorney. Can a student with valid work permit work two jobs with a pending AOS under EB3?
Yes.
Yes, they
Yeah.
can.
Both of
Work
them, both
permit,
of
you
them,
Yeah,
can.
pending
both of them
Yeah.
were
pending adjustment of
nodded.
status, yes, they can.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you have an EAD, you're allowed to work for any employer, and you can have multiple employers. It's not employer specific, like say an H-1B.
Mhm.
But I will caution, I'm going to add a little caution here, right? Because, you could be, if you're working on that EAD based on AOS and it's fine, it's authorized and everything, but just know that that's not the case for the student visa side of things, right?
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
so keep that part in mind. It's kind of tricky, right?
Yeah, so if you're working on OPT or CPT, that's one of
Mhm.
those visas subject to the employer. And also, one more caveat to add as well, when the EB3 is approved, the employer who filed the application has to be ready and willing to offer you the job that was listed in the AOS.
Okay, thank you. Um, if marriage based, how long will it take if I apply to remove the conditions? How long does the removal of conditions
A
take?
long time, a really long time.
Two,
So,
3 years
at
even.
least,
Yeah.
yeah, at least 3 years.
Mhm.
The best strategy is to, when you're eligible, to file for naturalization with the help of an attorney, and then you'll be scheduled sooner for an interview that will encompass both the 751 and the N400.
My other
Mhm.
son is F1 for 4 years now, from F2 for 3 years, 7 years, no interview appointment. Um, Started out with the F2 category because the parent only had a green card, right? And so
Hmm.
then changed to the F1. I mean, it
F1,
takes several years. It does take
but it's also
several years.
and
It's a
it's
lengthy,
way
both are,
backlogged.
yeah,
It's
Mhm.
yeah.
backlog. F1 is backlogged to 2018 right now for most country. Well, all countries with the exception of Mexico, and which is 2007, and the Philippines, which is
Mhm.
2013.
I'm afraid NTA for my father, and there's lawyers not wanting to represent for court date. So this person's father has an NTA, and lawyers do not want to take the case. What would you say to that?
So, I mean, I would have to, of course, review your record. I think a lot of attorneys, don't want to represent cases in removal just in general because it's tough. It's a very tough go right now. So it could be that. If there's a further issue, like there's some sort of frivolous or fraudulent claim, then that could be, even more reason we don't represent those clients either. But if it's just simply a difficult case, our firm would be happy to look at it and represent him. But I do know of a lot of attorneys that are kind of pulling back from removal just because it's so very difficult right now to get anything
Mm.
accomplished.
That's right. We would have to take a look to see if it has merit. And if it does, we can make an argument for him if there's one to be made. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. And maybe Farah, you want to take this one? My friend, oh, you got it?
Oh yeah, my friend do did her interview for green card from last year April, but still no response. However, she have her dad live in Detroit and want to visit his home because he's sick. What's your advice? Um, I'm assuming that she did her the friend did the green card interview abroad. I'm assuming, and she wants to enter on a visitor's visa. I'm not sure what the circumstances are exactly, or if her friend had a green card interview here in the United States and needs to travel. If it's a travel in domestically an issue, keep in mind what we've already warned you. TSA is sharing information with ICE at the airports. So if just know that it is a risk to travel to even domestically within the United States. If anytime you're encountering TSA agents, you're also encountering a member for the Department of Homeland Security. They're all part of the same organization. If it's just a situation where she had her interview last year for an immigrant visa, and she enters as a visitor. There's an issue called immigrant intent. If you're entering as a visitor to temporarily with the intent to go back home, but you have a green card interview already abroad, then there will be an issue about whether you actually intend to stay in the United States and permanently so that you can receive your green card. So it depends on what exactly her friend's situation is, but those are two things that she needs to think about.
If you've received an email from the NVC titled First Termination Letter without receiving the first two emails from them about receiving the case from USCIS, what would be the next step? Well, first of all, if you have a termination letter, take some sort of action immediately to ensure that your case stays alive. This is an easy fix. I wouldn't worry about the other two notices or emails that might have been missed. Right now, you have an opportunity to keep your case alive by paying the fees or uploading a document or starting your application just to keep it moving. Because for some reason, the Visa Center is under the impression that you're no longer interested in pursuing the visa. So you could cure that problem very easily, I think.
They may not have gotten the NVC invoice ID emails though, and they will need to get those.
Right, but the email that termination letter has those some of those details
Okay,
in it that could get
Mm.
him to the point
just
where
be able to
he could
log
get
in.
it.
Yeah, log
Yeah,
in.
he should
Yeah,
be
you
able
need
to
to log
log
in.
in. Okay, let's see. Thank you guys for being here. Double tap the screen if you're now joining. Thank you so much. I'm Latoya McBean Pompey. I'm joined by two of my immigration attorney colleagues on McBean Immigration TV and Facebook. You could see them there if you'd like to jump over. Double tap the screen and share this live session with your feed. We appreciate you being here today. Thank you for all of the new followers. We've received 92 so far. Thank you. Double tap the screen. Be sure to follow on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and McBean Immigration TV if you have not yet followed or subscribed. How long does the N336 take? And is it necessary to attend the hearing?
Um, I don't know what the processing times on them are right now. Do you know, Farah?
No, I don't. Mm-mm.
I can look and then answer in a minute, but it you don't always get a hearing. It just depends. Sometimes they have a couple of options. They can deny you outright, they can approve you outright, or they can set it up for another interview. So it will depend on the merits of your case and how they view it. And I will look up processing times.
But yeah, if you get a hearing, of course, you definitely need to appear at that hearing. Um, let's see. Can I apply for student visa if my immigrant interview is done? And what are the chances of getting a student visa? So this is someone who probably is part of the 75 country pause. They've done an interview, Farah, already on the immigrant visa side, and now they want to try student because they're blocked from coming in
Mm.
as an immigrant. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I think they'll still be eligible to file for a student visa. There's so much scrutiny right now with student visas. As you know, the new rules are coming in place in September. But if they meet all the qualifications, if they have the I-20, they have the acceptance letter from their school, they should still be able to pursue a student visa, even though
It's going to
Well,
be tough.
it
yeah,
will
Yeah, it's
be
going to be
immigrant
tough. Yes,
intent.
tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to
immigrant
be tough.
intent is going to be an issue
Yeah,
because
and
right.
they've got it. Yeah.
Exactly, because they
we
have
all want to
the immigrant intent again is
keep
the
my mouth
issue.
shut. No, we all want to say
Yeah,
something about this one, right? Yeah, the immigrant intent is that's the key. That's going to be the key there. But, of course, at the same time, these officers understand that, oh, this is the reason why, this person is trying to get into the United States. You just really have to double down on the intent to go to school, further your education, further your career. You've really got to double down on those facts, right? Here's a super chat question that came in from Ruan. I'm very vocal online about my political views about this administration. Can it hurt um, my military parole in place case? I just love politics. I've been here in the United States since I was 5 years old. So my take on this is that anti-Americanism is is driving some of the decision making on these applications because of course they're looking at social media, they're asking for social media information, and I would say, certainly, be careful with what you're saying online, right?
right.
Let's see. And, military parole in place, it is a discretionary process, right? The PIP
Hmm.
process, it is discretionary. Thank you for being here today. Hello, hello. Thank you. Does the pause affect parents who are filing citizenship application? Your citizenship application should be fine, okay? It should be fine. Let's see. Let's take the next one here. Can you travel domestically as an asylum holder? As an asylum holder, can you travel domestically? Would you tell someone it's fine to travel domestically?
Yeah, I would think they'll be fine. I would definitely have make sure they have proof of their asylum status with them as they travel domestically.
Asylee, right? The
Asylum, yes,
asylee, right?
yes. Hmm.
It's different from, I don't know who wants to explain that. It's different from just a pending asylum application.
Right,
There's a
right,
little
right,
nuance there.
right. A pending asylum application means that you probably just have the work permit to show that you have a pending asylum application or the receipt notice. But if you're actually been granted asylee status, whether it's granted, whether your I-589 application was approved or if it was granted by a judge, you should have that written documentation to prove that you were granted asylee status when you travel.
I spoke to you back then. I had a felony from 1992 and I'm not in removal. Can I get my citizenship? Okay, so he says that he met with us in a consultation, I think, and not in removal, but has a felony from 1992. I would still hold to the point that we've got to understand what that felony is.
Mm,
Applying for citizenship today with a felony is a very serious risk. Some people, I've advised people to wait. There, you've been a resident all these years, everything is fine. Don't, why all of this, why now, you want to push it when you have a very serious criminal record. What do you have to say about that?
I agree. I
Yeah,
mean, we
yeah,
need to know what it
mhm,
is, and but the way they've been going through naturalization, if you've waited this long, you might want to wait a couple more years.
sure. And also, I think you have to they need to consult with a criminal defense attorney as well to see if there's any possibility to get post conviction relief from that criminal felony conviction.
Right. If you're from one of the 75 country pause and have an interview scheduled at a U.S. embassy abroad, are you still required to attend your interview?
Yes, for sure. Please do attend. You don't want to miss the interview and they'll just cancel out your visa altogether. You're still required to attend, and you'll after the interview you'll get the 221G letter telling you that your visa cannot be issued at this time, but definitely should still attend your interview.
Is there any way to speed up the asylum interview with USCIS? Yes, we've done it a number of times for folks over the years, put in an expedite
Mm,
request, but I always add that you don't want to do that unless you've had your asylum case evaluated by an attorney to ensure that you have a good case, you have it has merit. And also what that attorney can do for you is help you to bolster things, make your argument a little stronger or to help you to identify potentially new evidence that could strengthen your case.
mhm.
Double tap the screen. Thank you all so much for joining today. It's a delight to be with you. Um, what can I do for citizenship? I'm having short memory.
So it will depend
Mm,
on why you're having short memory. So there is a way to file for a medical exemption, but that doctor has to sign a form and tie the medical condition directly to the reason why you're unable to remember or conduct the either written or reading test.
Um, let's see. Let's go down just a little bit. Um, Can I travel with an I-751 pendant? I got the extension in September. Gonna make 1 year since I put in my paperwork. How long can I apply for naturalization? How long can I apply for the N400?
So you can apply
mm,
for the N400 it based on marriage after 3 years of being a permanent resident. And travel again is going to go back to the caveats we made earlier that you need to make sure whatever is in your immigration history is solid. You don't have criminal history, and then traveling just on the 751 with an extension is fine as long as there's no other issues.
Will
mm.
Suriname, Grenada, or Guyana let an American ex-soldier stay? Perhaps. So I know nothing about the immigration laws of other countries, and what their criteria is for allowing new residents. Okay.
Agree.
Um, let's see. I res immigrant IR1 immigrant IR1 received 221G due to the visa pause. Can I apply for tourist visa? And is the denial chances very high in my case?
Yes, the denial
Mhm.
chances are very high. You would have to make an argument of why you're coming to visit the United States when you currently have a pending adjustment of status. It's a little bit different than having an F1 where you can make the argument that you're going to come over here and temporarily go to school and return, you're bettering your skills. Just simply to visit is going to be very difficult.
Oh, here's an interesting fact pattern. I'm from Portugal. I've been outside of the United States for almost 10 years now, waiting for the 10-year bar to end. I'm married to an American. She's been living here with me, and we have three American children. Okay, so for some reason you're facing this ban. I don't know if it's based on unlawful presence in the US or if it's like the permanent bar, which does require a full 10 years outside of the United States, or I don't know also if it's based on removal.
Mm,
being removed from the US. You should consult with an immigration attorney to see whether you're going to need to file a waiver before being able to come back here. And also with your US citizen spouse, you'll also need a good an approved I-130 petition that lays the groundwork for you. So I would be looking at an I-130 and potentially a waiver. It just depends on what led to
mm,
the 10-year bar. All right.
absolutely.
Great question. I have checked my USCIS case and it says the case is processing. It's been 4 years. How long should I wait to get my I-130 approved?
It depends on the category you're in. So if you're, if you're in a category like, say, a brother or sister applying for you, those take quite a long time. It's when you get closer to the
Mm,
priority date and current that they start really working to approve those. If it's a case that's not does not have super long processing times, you should probably be checking with an attorney and finding out what's going on if you need to move to some sort of mandamus.
Um, let's see. I want to just ask you both a question before we take the next one. What
sure.
has been a recent, so it's, I know no one cares about immigration lawyers. I get that. But so I want to preface it by saying that. Um, but you should care about them because they are on the front lines, right? Fighting for their clients. So, what would you say has been a recent happening that really encouraged you? Because it's been a very hard, long year and a half. It's been very, very, very hard. People don't see the emotional toil and the physical toil that it takes on us.
Mhm.
But what has happened, if you could give one example or story that from a case maybe that you've worked on or a hearing that you attended that kind of really boosted your energy and just said, okay, I could keep going.
I'll say the interview I went on the other day. I had a marriage-based interview for actually one of the plaintiffs in one of our 39 country lawsuit, and it was from round one. And we went into USCIS, and we had a very good officer. She had some arrest history that could have been problematic, and he was very understanding. They were very, very nervous. I actually prepped them twice because I was worried about how nervous they were, and he really did make them feel at ease and then even granted the case at the interview. So I think he's been an
Mhm.
officer for a long time based on some of the things that he said. Um, and so it kind of brought back that, there are still good officers out there. There are still positive officers. Even
Mhm.
with the arrest
Mhm.
history, he was very kind and kind of made jokes about how he addressed it. And, it just, everybody was very, very comfortable.
Oh, that's great. What about you, Farah? Has anything happened
Uh,
that's renewed your faith in the system, so to speak?
yeah, I think my detention case from earlier this month, we had a client who was detained down in Louisiana, which is in the Fifth Circuit, a very conservative circuit in the United States, and she was detained. But fortunately, we were able to. She had a very active family. Her relatives who also had status, U.S. citizen, husband, green card holder, um, mother, a brother in the military. Uh, she had a large community behind her who supported her and provided support letters for her for our bond hearing motion. And we were able to, the immigration judge in her case was able to grant a bond. And she is back home with her family right now. So I think that was a very emotional case for me because detentions have been very difficult, almost impossible over the last 2 years to get clients released from detention. But we got a positive outcome in that case, and for that I'm happy, and I'm able to keep going from now.
Yeah, it gave you a little
Yeah,
ammo for the next, I don't know, 3 months, right? That one
exactly,
could last a
exactly.
little bit, right?
Hmm.
That really could last. Tembado says, I'm part of Lyft. Things start moving positively. How do I get in touch with you to thank you for the wonderful work you did? Wow, thank you so much. You could just email because I do read our emails, and I love to see, um, something positive to really keep me motivated too, actually. So just send us an email at lift@mcbeanlaw.com with your updates. If you've heard from USCIS, if you had your interview, if you've gotten approved of your case, and send us the proof, a copy of your receipt notice showing that you were approved, or a screenshot showing that you were approved. Send it by email, and our colleagues are monitoring and tracking all of those developments. So thank you for that. Have we answered this one? Oh, my renewed second work permit was approved in May of 2026. My approved I-130 was revoked and I-45 denied in July. After waiting 4 years, I just started working again. What happens to the work permit? Wow, I'm sorry to hear this. I hope you have a strategy to move ahead, because obviously we would like to speak with you further about this if you don't already have a representation. But the work permit was connected to the 485, and it's no longer good, unfortunately. But definitely act swiftly to see whether your case can be appealed. You might still be within the appeal window, right? The 485
Mhm.
was denied in 2020 July, but the problem that I see now, of course, is the revocation of the I-130. So a 485 appeal isn't the way to go. Complex case. We'd love to be able to understand what happened there. We have a lot of experience with revocations and removal. So be sure to reach out if you had not yet reached out to us. I'm sorry about that, though. Can a twin brother ask for a waiver for overstaying? Twin. Is there a category for twins? Unfortunately, there is no category. It has to be either parent or spouse, U.S. citizen or green card holder. But in some instances, if you're in removal, it could be a child that the waiver could be based on. Let's see. Think. Okay. As a fledgling paralegal working on a
Fledgling?
bachelor's in science, fledgling.
Fledgling.
As a fledgling, I didn't see the L, paralegal working on a BS, bachelor's. I love when Mrs. Pompey goes live. You conduct class. Oh, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for following. Thank you so much. Let's see. Let's go down just a little bit. We've already answered the question about traveling on the 751. My dad's N400 interview got canceled. We are Nigerians. Is this something to worry about? The dad's N400 interview was canceled. It was probably, was it canceled during the 39 country pause, or was it recently canceled, like over the last, I don't know, 6 weeks or so, 7 weeks? Um, I don't know. Tell us, right? Because that does make a difference, right?
Mhm.
Because my experience so far with the 39 country plaintiffs is that, of course, they did cancel those interviews during the first part of this year. But now that things should be moving, you should get a new interview notice, right? At least that's what I've seen for some people. But for others, they are just dragging, USCIS is just moving extremely slow. Um, we've already
And it could
answered.
be canceled for any number of reasons too. I mean, sometimes officers leave or they're overbooked, so
There could be other practical reasons,
it
right?
is.
When will the 75 country visa pause be lifted? I'm from Pakistan. I don't know when it's going to be lifted. I don't know.
Mhm.
I really want to see it happen through litigation, which is what we're involved in. Other firms are involved in litigation as well. Clinic versus Rubio is involved in litigation as well. So we're all just really plugging away trying to get it to be lifted, or this administration can just lift it when they're ready, right? But in the meantime, we're not waiting. We're trying to get people to get their visa, trying to get the visas issued here for those who have been waiting.
Mhm.
Um, did we answer the question about the dental surgeon? I'm a dental surgeon affected by the 75 country pause. I'm from Lebanon. My husband is a US citizen and an engineer. We are clearly not a public charge. We are super healthy and highly educated. The pause should be lifted ASAP. I agree with you that the pause should be
Mhm.
lifted, not just because of, you know, there are a lot of people out there. The fact is, there are a lot of people out there like this who have no reason to be a public charge. They could pass the scrutiny easily. Now, most the people who are in the 221G had already passed the existing scrutiny. There's no public charge issue, there's no inadmissibility problems. That's why they're just there waiting in this 221G bucket, which is so unfair. They are going to come out with some new criteria to try to run people through that new protocol, screening protocol. You and they are going to be using those factors like age, your medical history, um, your education. You could pass through those factors, but just know though that what they're looking for is they extend the discretion, make it they're going to make it harder anyway to pass through like a little needle, right? I feel like
Mhm.
it's going to be like an eye of a needle kind of scenario that they're trying to set up. So, yes, you might have all of these great accolades or accomplishments, but what else are they going to throw in there to deny you based on this public charge issue? The issue I think we have to wake up to is the fact that it's all nationality based. It's not
Mhm.
just income based, it's nationality based that is um, under that's carrying all of what we're seeing. So that's why we're fighting this because it's incredibly illegal to make these decisions based on nationality,
And
right?
can I comment a comment on something? I did see a comment, I won't call it out, but I did see a comment about somebody saying that the lawyers can't do anything to lift the pause. And so I just kind of wanted to address that if everybody gets silent and complacent, then nothing will be done. Of course, we I can't, Latoya can't, Farah can't walk into a courtroom and file a case that's going to automatically lift something that's been set in place by this administration that goes across all these nations and all these states.
Although
But
we're trying.
but we are, that's
We
what I was
are.
getting at. That's and we are trying and working very, very hard. Our Lyft team works very, very hard. Latoya works very, very hard on this. But if nobody has a voice, nothing is ever going to get changed. So it may seem like a long process, but it takes these steps to make things turn around. And so everybody's got to make these steps. Getting discouraged or negative isn't going to help it at all.
Mhm. Mhm.
Exactly. Thank you, Kimberly. I have a visitor visa. Currently, my case is at the Bridgetown Embassy. That's in the Caribbean, right? Barbados. I had an
Mhm.
interview, but was not given a visa. Is it safe to travel on the visitor visa? I'm from one of the 75 countries. Now, if you do have a visitor visa, you can travel to the United States, despite the fact that you're from one of these 75 countries. They're not refusing folks entry into the US. So you can certainly travel to the United States. For some people, when they travel to the US on their visitor visa, if they decide to change their mind and stay here, they could also apply for adjustment of status if they have that change of heart and their circumstances might have changed a little bit. So speak with an attorney if you think that if you're here in the United States already and you're making that kind of change of circumstances in heart and mind and soul. Because with immigration now, I kind of feel like it's the soul that they are trying to get at, right? It's which
Mhm.
is so diabolical, I think, right? When you really think about
Yes,
it.
yes,
I
it
mean, we
is.
already know that there's a lot of mind games that's part of what's the policy making because the intent is to drive you out, intent to drive you to self-deport. So they're using a
Mhm.
lot of psychology to get you to that point. But just be informed. Don't act emotionally. Don't make your decisions just based on emotions. Be informed about your options. I won the green card lottery. I did the interview, but still pending any update. I'm from Trinidad. So
No.
this,
Mhm.
so what the way I understand this individual, they interviewed before the fiscal year is over, right? September 30th, fiscal year end. So, um, I don't know what Trinidad is not. Is Trinidad? It should not be. I don't know. I could be wrong. Is Trinidad one of the 75? Because I can't keep up with that as much. But some is it?
Yeah.
They could tell me.
No, but there's a general pause on the DV lottery right now.
Oh, that's why
Right.
that where this is
Yeah.
coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why.
And that
Uh,
includes issuance as well, issuance of DVs.
Refugee from Kenya, and I got approved, but still pending for Trump administration executive order. Refugee from Kenya got approved. Where did you what approval do you have there? Um, OPT, okay, on OPT extension, but my visa is expired and I really want to go to Jamaica to visit my sick granddad. Can I? OPT extension, visa
But
expired, wants to go to Jamaica to visit sick grandparent.
you're gonna have to get an appointment to get a new visa in order to come
Mm-hmm.
back in. So that's gonna be where the issue lies is can you get an appointment for an F1 visa? And then you've got to take into consideration the thing I said earlier, which is starting September 15th, those dates, you're gonna get a limited date and a limited expiration date, which if you're on OPT or CPT is gonna be short.
Um, Someone really wants a job with us. He's nominated me to be chair of the DC Bar Association. This is the same person who's working doing the paralegal studies. That's cute. Um, my I-130 was approved in 2015, family based. I flew to the US under a different visa, missed I-130 interview, and just recently reopened my case for I-130. USCIS officer said that my case is at the NVC. Um, don't know who wants to take this one. Flew to the US under a different visa, missed the I-130 interview, reopened the I-130, but the case is at the NVC.
Super.
The
Oh,
I-130 interview would be, it sounds like this person was here in the United States. The I-130 was scheduled for because that's the only way they could get an I-130 interview. It only happens here.
Right.
So
right,
they were
right.
here in the United States, missed the interview. The case was reopened, but the case has now been sent to the visa
The
center.
MVP.
So the question that I think that I would look at is whether you could adjust your status, whether it makes sense to reroute your case, whether it makes sense for you to apply for adjustment of status, or you keep going to the consular process, which I don't know what's going on with you, whether you're in lawful status here in the United States
Mm-hmm.
or not. I would consider whether she would need a waiver next, So speak
Right.
one-on-one, maybe with us or an attorney about what your options are. We've answered questions already about traveling on the I-751. Maybe it's a spam, I don't know. I'm a US citizen. Can I file for my undocumented child over 21?
You're U.S. citizen. Yes.
Yes, definitely you can. You could file for your child. It's a lengthy wait, but get that
Mm-hmm.
person in line for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We had an interview for my son, and he's from a 75 country. They said we will inform of our final decision later. Do we have a chance of getting it approved? This sounds to me like at the embassy level, right? The interview
What
was
it
at
sounds
the
like,
embassy.
yeah.
So the like I said, if they are placing individuals in the 221G category, it's because they found no problems with the case, no inadmissibility problems, and they're waiting for the pause to be lifted before they could issue the visa. Okay, let's see if we could take a couple more questions before we sign off because I know my colleagues are extremely busy as well. Okay, did you see this one about the T visa? Thank you for the information. T visa receipt August 12th of 24. Bona fide determination. Um, let's see. It's going to be 2 years this August since my receipt did biometrics. No EAD, no RFE. Should I send an inquiry?
I would send an inquiry on the EAD. You've got a long time on the T visa in general, but
Mm-hmm.
since you've got the bona fide, they should be processing your EAD.
Here's an interesting one. My partner is in ICE custody trying asylum, but it does not look good. If I marry him, can I start an I-130? He's been here since 2019, came in illegally.
Yeah.
You certainly can start the I-130 process. There's a couple of issues. One, you're going to be filing while he's in custody, which is increased scrutiny. And then you have an issue with he's currently in custody, and given that he entered illegally, would require to consular process, which likely would need a waiver, and that's a very long process and requires him leaving and coming back in. I don't know that he's going to remain detained in the United States for the whole period of that time.
Right. And it
And
sounds
you
like he may need, oh, I'm sorry, he may need two waivers because he entered illegally, and then also the unlawful presence waiver as well.
And you know, if they end up deporting him, it doesn't mean that
Hmm.
it's over.
Correct.
You starting an I-130 process is just the way of starting the process of ending his immigration journey, quite frankly. So if he leaves and that I-130 is approved, and then the waivers, as my colleague mentioned, are filed, he can return to the United States and return early. He doesn't have to stay out for the full 10 years. Just so long as you have the right intent and it's a bona fide marriage and you just start the process, don't be discouraged, but just know that it's going to take maybe a few years to bring
Hmm.
him back here. Okay. Thank you so much. We had a terrific story. I don't know if you saw your email last night or read our story on our website, but we just got another approval, very fast marriage green card adjustment of status case approved in 3 months for a client who has been in the United States for 28 years. He was a Jamaican. He was living here for that many years. And he entered the United States back in 1998 when he was only a teenager, 16 years old. And he built his life here. He started a family here and was in a long-term relationship with a U.S. citizen. And they worked with us and we prepared his case, filed it on March 20th, to be precise, 2026. He did his biometrics in April. He attended his interview in May, and the approval was received on July 1st, just over 3 months actually after filing. Guys, don't ever give up. Don't stop. This type of case, however, is not common during this time, okay? It's not common, but it does happen. So if you have a good immigration case, do not be afraid to bring it to immigration for filing, but do it knowingly. Do it knowing, that it's a good case, right? So be evaluated and ensure that everything has really been um, considered before filing. Okay, we still really do have a whole lot of questions. The questions never end when we're live, but I do want to thank my colleagues for joining us today. It was very nice to have someone to talk to. But they have a lot of work to do. We have a very heavy caseload, and we're slugging away for our clients. Thank you so much, Attorney Farah, Attorney Kimberly. Thank you for being here, and I think maybe one of you gave up your lunch break to join today. Friends, thank you so much. Subscribe, follow, pay attention to what we're sending you through our emails. Subscribe to our newsletter at mcbeanlaw.com/subscribe to get all of the latest updates from us. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Right. Bye bye.